How we doing, everybody? Mitch still out. Spencer still in. Welcome to the SPACs attack. That's my best Mitch punching SPACs impression. Let's bring on the man who's bringing the knowledge on the show. Of course, it's not me. I'm just here to keep the wheels moving here. But Chris Katje is our SPAC guru. Chris, what up, man? How's it going?
It's going good. How about you, Spencer? I like that punch in action. It looks like you've been watching the show for a little bit to get Mitch's move down there.
My best impression right there, the old Mitch punch. All right, Chris, we got a good show today. We got a lot of SPAC news, and as you just noted, a lot of green on the screen. We'll get to all of that. Who's our guest we're going to have on in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, so guys, super excited. We have a very interesting interview today. We have Elie Habib joining us. He's the co-founder of Anghami. For those of you who don't know, Anghami is, the Spotify equivalent in the Middle East. The company is going public with ticker VMAC. So very interesting. They're the market leader in the Middle East for music streaming and also have podcasts, and they're getting into some live media coverage as well. So very excited for that interview. As you said, Spencer, lots of SPACs green out there, and we also have some headlines and 2 deals to talk about too.
Let's get into those headlines.
All right, guys. So up first, our headline, former SPAC CarLotz, ticker LOTZ. Shares are falling today. The company out with an update saying that a leading corporate vehicle sourcing partner has paused consignments to the company. So in the first 3 months of 2021, this sourcing partner represented 60% of all cars sold and sourced by CarLotz. In the second quarter, the consignment partner represented 50% of cars sold and 25% of cars sourced. CEO Michael Bohr, who was on the show not too long ago, talked about the continuing car chip shortage, now placing limitations on inventory. And unfortunately, this one looks like it's going to hit them hard. They did say they are focused on increasing non-competitive sourcing through consignment, bulk buys, adding new corporate vehicle sourcing accounts, and other ways. They're guiding for 14 to 16 hubs to be opened in the current fiscal year, with most of those happening in the second half and now being pushed later than originally anticipated. So new guidance is 13,000 to 15,000 units for the full fiscal year. And they see revenue of $272 million to $317 million. Previous guidance given was 18,000 to 20,000 units sold and revenue of $335 million to $375 million. Remember that CarLotz shares sold off after the earnings report, as many predicted, that with the surge in car sales, that they would actually raise guidance, but instead they kept it the same. So not positive news out today for CarLotz. What do you think, Spencer?
I think what's obvious is you look at the chart, it kind of says all you need to know, right? I'm not saying I don't know about this company. I don't know if they can turn it around or not. But like you said, the market is expecting one thing, and they did the exact opposite. I mean, in reality, like the conditions, the market conditions right now would theoretically be amazing. Would they not? I mean, the car market is on fire, right? Used cars, new cars. So the fact that they're having supply issues against this backdrop is doesn't make me excited.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that was probably disclosed in their original filing, but to also come to find out that one of their sourced partners represented more than 50% of revenue.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes you pretty dependent on that company. And as you see today, when that gets paused, it really affects your guidance and also the share price. So no surprise, shares down about 20% today. So keep an eye out on LOTZ. Then we have GNPK, Redwire Space, which has been one of my favorite space SPACs, kind of an infrastructure play, a mini space ETF. So they had a couple tweets out. They have solar arrays that are going to be going to the International Space Station. So those are going to be delivered on a SpaceX mission targeted for June 3rd, which would be next week. So we could see Redwire, get some press out of this. Also some photos, of those solar arrays being attached to the International Space Station. So nice positive news out there. And we have CCIV, of course, one of the most followed SPACs out there. Shares up only 0.2% right now. They have a presentation later today. So around 1 p.m. Eastern time, Lucid Motors is going to talk about those new vehicles on their YouTube channel, sharing a presentation, making their global debut. Remember that Lucid also over the weekend had some cars out that people could come and tour. And then they did some test drives with some media companies as well. So starting to get through, the media circuit right now. I don't think we get a lot of new information from this presentation, Spencer, because, it's already out there. But what do you think of this event today at 1 o'clock? You think we see shares move into the close, or you think this is just a normal day?
I kind of think it's a normal day. I mean, I hear what you're saying, because generally I am like on the hunt and watching for upcoming catalysts, whether they be investor focused or otherwise. And this one doesn't seem to like it's specifically geared towards investors. But this, to be honest, wasn't even on my radar until you brought it up to me. So I don't know how many people know about this.
Yeah, and I really thought shares would be up more. Just they had a tweet out yesterday talking about this event. I figured this would be one of those, sell the news, right? But you really don't even have the pop today to sell the news.
Well, you had the pop yesterday.
Looked like yesterday, yeah. So, yeah. But it looks like today, just not really moving. But again, if you look at that chart, over the last couple days, this thing has traded up. So interesting to see, if we get new details out of Lucid and if shares move. So we'll be watching that later. I know, Spencer, you'll probably be able to talk about it at the close at 3:30, to maybe see if this one moved. Then we have GHVI, which is merging with Matterport, a spatial data company. They have earnings out today after close. GHVI has been a pretty strong performing SPAC. Up over $14. They also recently added a vice president of international marketing, talking about the rapid expansion across APAC and EMEA regions. So I think maybe we get some more guidance on international growth out there from Matterport. So something to follow tonight after close. Then we have ACAC announcing their merger vote date of June 17th for Play Studios. We'll add that to our calendar. And then our two deals yesterday, LEGO shares up 2% and PTK up 1%. So both deals announced yesterday, shares up on the day. And then we turn to our two deals announced this morning. So we have ticker FORE, merging with P3 Health Partners, a patient-centered and physician-led population health management company, a $2.3 billion valuation. This is a Medicare Advantage company targeting, the older population, founded and led by physicians. They have a large addressable market for Medicare Advantage, talking about 60 million people, in a $300 billion market size. They estimate revenue of $633 million in fiscal 2021, up 31%, and $825 million in fiscal 2022, up 30%. And then our second deal, we have DCRN. This is Decarbonization Plus Acquisition Corp 2, bringing Tritium public. So Tritium is a leading electric vehicle charging infrastructure company. They're going to trade as DCFC on the NASDAQ after the merger. DCRN shareholders will own 24% of that new company. So they're the only pure-play DC fast-charging manufacturing company with a global sales and support reach, presence in 41 countries across 4 continents. They've provided 2.7 million charging stations and sold more than 4,400 DCFC chargers. So right now they have a 15% market share in the US, 20% market share in Europe, and 75% market share in Australia and New Zealand, which is where they're headquartered. They get 70% of their revenue from Europe, 20% from the US, and 10% from Australia, New Zealand. So they talk about reducing the total cost of ownership versus their competitors, and also having a smaller footprint. So if you look at some of the charging stations out there, some of them are bulky and, take up extra parking spaces. Tritium can have those charging stations at the end of the parking spaces, leaving more room for more vehicles to charge. They're going to grow with a new manufacturing plant in Europe, and they have several partnerships with blue chip customers and also growth in the fleet management segment. And they're going to get into some licensing agreements. 17 new products to launch, and they plan to grow with entry in new countries and adjacent segments. Revenue of $59 million last year, guiding for $84 million this fiscal year, and hitting $1 billion by 2026. 90% of their revenue comes from chargers right now, but in the future, they want to diversify into revenue streams for services and softwares, and estimating to have positive EBITDA by fiscal 2023. So that's our deals. And then, of course, we have IPOE, the merger vote tomorrow, and STIC on the 28th. And then, as I said, we have those earnings out for GHVI tonight, and then ChargePoint, CHPT on watch with earnings next week. So that's what I've got, Spencer.
All right. We'll get to our watch list because, as I said at the top, there's a lot of green today. We'll get to those stocks later on. We'll cover questions in the chat in a second. But let's get to our main segment of the day here, our interview segment with our guest. As we mentioned, Elie Habib at the top of the show. We're going to bring Elie on right now. Elie Habib, as we said, is with the company that bills itself as the Spotify of the Middle East and Northern Africa. Anghami. Elie, welcome to SPAC Tech.
Hello, hello, Spencer. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
All right. Let's dive into some questions here, Elie. So, up first, Anghami going public with ticker VMAC. So first question here is, why a SPAC deal to bring Anghami public, and was a traditional IPO a consideration?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. We are seeking growth. We are seeking to supercharge our growth, and we are based in the Middle East. We are the leading music streaming service in the region. We have market share upwards of 60%. In COVID times, we really were looking to raise a round and a traditional VC round, and then we realized that the opportunity of being public, tapping in the public market, and being able to have a public currency, a stock, is what allowed a lot of companies during COVID to actually continue grow and purchase other companies by using not just cash but stock and debt. And we just happened to run through the VMAC, the sponsor of the SPAC, and they are into media, and they really convinced us that we are growing significantly. We barely have raised any funds so far. Over the past years, we only raised 26 million, which is nothing, but we're growing significantly. And being on the public market, tapping into the US public market would allow us to supercharge growth by being able to have that public currency that I mentioned. So that's why we decided, we're just ready to do that since we're growing significantly.
Awesome. So you mentioned, Anghami, the leader in the Middle East and Northern Africa for music streaming. For those of our viewers who are unfamiliar with Anghami, can you give us some more background on the company and maybe some of the geographical areas that you're currently present in?
Yeah, great. So basically, Anghami literally means my tunes in Arabic. We launched in 9 years ago, right? And as I said, we did not really grow with a lot of funding. We started by a loan right before VC. We put a loan from ourselves, we took a loan from a bank, and then eventually we grew with some VC money, 26 million, but we really grew and significantly sustainably. We are operating over 16 countries in the Middle East, but the product is available everywhere. We're a music streaming platform, so it's available on iPhone, Android, or all apps, but we're available also on TV, our car, and everything, right? So we're available for artists, we're available for operators, because we in the Middle East, payment is a big deal. Payment is hard because people don't exactly use credit cards. 60% of our users subscribe by mobile operator, by paying via their telco. And Anghami is the only streaming service, probably, I don't know whether worldwide, but in the region, that has access to 37 telcos that we've built ourselves, direct connections, to be able to convert, to be able for the user to be able to pay and to grow. And, we expect significant growth because now we're ready, to start using marketing. We barely spent marketing in our inception. So that's a simple way of describing Anghami.
Perfect. And, one of the areas of expansion after the SPAC deal mentioned, is hitting some new countries. Can you talk a little bit about the geographic expansion efforts from Anghami going forward?
Yeah. As I said, we're an Arab platform, but we have all the music, right? We have close to 57 million tracks. A lot of them are international. You'll find everything from Dolly Parton to Drake, right? I mean, and obviously to a lot of Arab music that is available only on Anghami. But we've noticed that the Arab diaspora everywhere, right? Whether it's in Michigan or it's in Paris or in Belgium, whatever, are using Anghami and just like that, organically, without us doing any marketing. And there is an opportunity because there is roughly over 300 million users, Arab users, that are outside the Middle East and that we can tap into. And so we want to really grow into the diaspora. We'll be doing efforts over the next few months to grow exponentially with the diaspora, and to be able to market ourselves, to be able to get people to really smell the music back home by accessing the biggest library ever for Arabic music. But at the same time, there's a lot of untapped territory in the Middle East that we haven't yet grown into. Talk about like Iraq. You probably hear about Iraq on the news on CNN, but Iraq got a 3G network roughly less than 2 years ago. Just less than 2 years ago, Libya, Sudan, all of that. And there's a lot of tremendous opportunity to grow. So for us, the Arab world is very important. But again, based on our experience in emerging market, we know that we have opportunities outside the Arab world to be able to grow in. And we will be doing that by next year. I mean, I don't want to disclose too much, but clearly there are a lot. I mean, the Western music services have focused a lot on US, Europe, and whatever. They have forgotten that, there's a lot of emerging markets that are growing, that have a lot of potential. And we really want to go there and check if we can take the learnings and the lessons that we've done in the Middle East over there.
I have a question for you, Elie. What is to stop? I mean, Spotify is already in your market, right? So what is to stop? What is to stop Spotify or another player, Apple, iTunes, whatever, to deciding, hey, we want this market for ourselves, and then just encroaching on the space that you say you have now?
Yeah, right. I mean, by that logic, no company would do anything because Google and Apple and Spotify might eat it, or Netflix, right? So clearly they're not doing it. It's simple. It's called focus. You can't focus everywhere. So we're focusing on the region. We're contributing to content. Anghami is not exactly, it's a great question, because how different are we from Spotify? And the answer is really a lot. We allow artists to upload direct music to our platform, which is something that Spotify never managed to do because it's complicated. We focus on our artists, our part of the marketplace. We produce content. We literally produce content. We have our own payment network. So we don't exactly use the off-the-shelf payment. So all of that and way more indicate focus. And focus is very important because we understand the region much more than Spotify, right? And their small team, mostly built from European people, are working in the Middle East. And to do that, you really need to focus. And we grew tremendously when Apple came in 2015. It's important. We were here in the region before iTunes, which is probably one of the few territories in the world. and then we grew by 80% after Spotify came in 2018. So honestly, I mean, we'd love competition. We have total respect for Apple, Spotify, and whatever, but they can't focus exactly everywhere in the world. And during that time, we're growing, and we're going to keep growing. And we also want to grow in different ways. So Anghami, for instance, launched recently live radio, which is something that we were working on for the past year. And I mean, just sum it up, it's as if, radio and Clubhouse and and music app had a wedding or whatever. So we've been working on that for the past few years, because we've integrated. Anghami is very social app. Unlike all other music streaming apps, we have stories, we have chat, we have ability to connect people together, because I like certain type of music and I dislike certain type of music. I will connect with other people who share the same DNA. We call it music DNA. We also have launched something called live radio, which enable anybody to have a radio station and literally play music on it, talk like right now. You could have done that exact interview right now within Anghami, but with music, because we focus on music. And why we want to do that? Because live radio will allow anybody, music influencers, artists, DJs, small and big, and then big, to really premiere their music on Anghami on their own live radio stations and monetize that stations. Yet it might sound for you that it's similar to what others are doing, but we're the only one who focusing on music, and we've done that. It's live. We're not planning it. We didn't buy a company to do it. We already have it live. We premiered it a few months ago, and we had launched it earlier in the year without audio, without voice. And now we launched voice into it, and we're allowing artists to come in and launch music within their own channel, launch premiere with their fans. So in an intimate setting whereby they can talk about their music, have their own premiere, get engagement with their fans. Fans can that room can be free or it can be monetized.
Right.
That is part of our growth. And we believe it's very important because it helps us also with the margin, because, live radio is, clearly it's a radio model. It's not on demand. When, you tap into a channel of an artist or an influencer, it's not exactly on demand. So it's better on the margin for Anghami. It allows us to also grow in different ways of acquiring users. And, at the same time, allowing artists to monetize, allowing creators, influencers to have their own audience that they're monetizing on Anghami.
Sure.
So that's why Anghami is very much focused. We're not following any other platform. We're doing our own way.
So last week, at least I think it was last week, time is a circle for me now, but Chris and I interviewed the CEO of Jumia, which is the largest e-commerce company out in Africa. And one of the biggest points that they made was that the African market is really, really difficult for like a company like Amazon to like come into, right? Like we did it and it was really hard. Are there any unique challenges that the Middle East or Northern Africa poses in particular that maybe would like dissuade a Spotify or an Apple or anybody, you name it, to want to come in there?
I mean, clearly they came in late, but they came in. But it's, for them, it's about enabling, access to a country. So it's not that big, that complicated for them to come in, but to scale, to grow. Yeah. As I said, we built a mobile network. We did not use like Twilio or anything. We built one-on-one with 37 telecom operators to enable users and those telecom operators to actually pay and upgrade to the premium version of Anghami. That is a work that we did. We implemented that work, and took us years to do. That is quite a huge barrier to growth for anybody if they don't do this. And doing it is very complicated. I don't know whether it's worth their efforts on doing it in Middle East or in India, whatever, as an example. But we did that. That's barrier. Another barrier is music in the Middle East. There isn't a big major label yet. I mean, Universal is not a major in the region. I mean, they don't have 60% market share or 40 or whatever. It's a smallish market share. And we benefit from that because it allows us to, have direct relationship with the artists. So we have a platform for artists to upload music directly to Anghami, and to promote their music, and they can they create their music in their I don't know, in their bedroom, and they can upload it, and they can reach millions of users. That is unique, and that requires a special efforts in the region that is not common. I just listed 2 things, but there are many more that make the Middle East is kind of a different region, and it's important. We care about that. We are from the region. Anghami was built from the region. We created our own ad network in the region again to be able to build, to grow our advertising revenue, and that is again very complicated to do, because you can't just put in Google Ads and expect to make money, and that takes a whole lot of manpower and foots on the ground to do that and to grow ad revenue. There's a lot to be done, and we really like the ride, and we can't wait to tell you what we're doing after after the SPAC, after the IPO, and hopefully in the next couple of months or less, because we have a lot of rocket stuff we're planning to to have in the next few months even before the IPO that we're going to talk about.
Awesome. I want to circle back to the live radio offering. So that sounds real interesting, as we've seen so many social media platforms now try to monetize their users and allow creators monetization efforts. So is that currently then being offered, or is that in testing? And what does the revenue split look like between Anghami and the users for live radio?
Yeah, great. So in the product is live, it's available. We have artists using it. We have big artists, small artists, and fans using it, creating intimate sessions or creating 10,000 user sessions, whereby they're playing music and all of that. So you can create your own radio. You can play music from the repertoire of 57 million tracks, but you can at the same time, chat with the people in the room, or you can get someone from the room to interview or to talk to or whatever. And there is monetization coming up. So everything is already live. The monetization part is not live. It's going to be live next month. In terms of revenue, we expect revenue split. We expect to be to give the artist the big share of the revenue and keep at most 20% for us. So that is in line, if you want to say, with what Twitter is going to be launching again. And we hope we will have even ways whereby the artists are going to be, the creators are going to be getting more, because besides having a room whereby people can pay, because it's a ticketed room whereby people you have to be subscribed to go into it, you'll be able to also get micropayments by sending stars and what have you, small micropayments. And we're going to have a bigger revenue split for those. What is important for us is to allow artists to create content, to create artists to come, to start creating new music in the region, in the Middle East. To do that, we need to provide them ways to generate revenue beside the normal streaming income, and by creating rooms that are paid, subscribed, kind of like a Patreon thing, whereby artists will be able to share it with their fans, create music with their fans, and get revenue also from those subscriptions of tiers of subscription, whereby you might get to talk with the artist, or you might video call with the artist and be closer to them. This will allow artists to want to create new music, create new content, and to engage with their fans, discover who their fans really are. And you can't do that unless you tap into Anghami, because that's the biggest network to reach artists, to reach your fans in the Middle East. All of that is super exciting for us. Clearly, it's live, it's available, monetization is coming, and we wanted really to go live with the part that has no monetization first, to get the engagement, to see how people react with it, to it, and to see our artists engaging. So far, it's been great, and with monetization coming up, I'm pretty sure artists are gonna have more and more reasons to come and use and launch exclusive content only on Anghami.
Perfect. So one of the things from the investor presentation was that Anghami has a vision to create the largest music and media platform in the region. So obviously we know the music side of things. Can you talk today about, plans for growth in media, or is that something that we'll learn more about after the SPAC deal goes through?
Yeah, I mean, clearly radio is part of the media, but there will be more coming after the SPAC. The live radio allows people really to, create what you're calling podcasts, because those are talks, discussions, interviews, and they're not exactly just music. And for us, it's, again, as I said, it's an opportunity to create more revenue because from free users and from plus users, right? From premium users, because right now, all music streaming services are binary. Either you're free or you're paid. If you're paid, you can't get any more revenue from you, right? I mean, and that is not what we want. We want to be a media platform whereby we're generating more revenue from every segment of the user, whether you're free or whether you're paid. The music was the first step. Podcast and live radio are the second step. More are coming in terms of media, because what we want to own is literally the ear. And there's an opportunity because we started as a music platform, so you consume it via your ear, whereby, you can be reading Twitter and listening to music, reading a book and listening to music, right? And so Anghami is with you throughout the day. And there's a lot of opportunities on other stuff that you can consume through your ear that we really want to do. But at the same time, we're launching video concerts. We've been toying with them. We launched I think so far 7-8 concerts, but we want to allow people also to create their own concerts from Anghami, ticketed concerts that will be available. I mean, artists have already used that, and we've had pretty good success with ticketed concerts on video on Anghami, and we're going to also make that go more mainstream, because there are opportunities for artists that are creating content anyway, and engaging with Anghami and creating more revenue from the virtual presence. COVID is hopefully going to go away, but that experience of artists wanting to generate more revenue from offline and also from digital is very important, and we really want to be there wherever and help our ecosystem. And artists are really critical for us, and this is how we will generate more revenue. But again, more will come after the IPO, I mean, towards the end of the year.
Awesome. So, one of the things about being a publicly traded company now will be looking at the financials. So we've seen the revenue growth, and then in your investor presentation, it talks about hitting positive adjusted EBITDA in 2021. Is that still on track to hit this fiscal year?
Yes, correct. I mean, clearly, COVID, despite the repercussions that COVID created on streaming and on emerging market, we think we're gonna be EBITDA positive, and clearly our target is growth, not being EBITDA positive, but that is something that we can hit at the same time. But we expect to focus on growth, and opportunistically we might want to decide to switch on growth rather on EBITDA, because we're gonna want to do a bit of more aggressive growth strategies and a bit of more on acquisition and later this year. So while EBITDA positive is something we can achieve, I'm going to prioritize growth now and for the coming few years also.
Elie, you noted in the presentation, I'll bring the slide up here, a couple of really large acquisitions that American companies had made to get access to the Middle East market, right? Uber and Amazon. Is that something like, obviously you can't disclose if you're in talks, not that you are or aren't, but is that something down the line that's like a potentially logical conclusion for investors here?
I mean, I can't say that, I'm never going to look into that. So that is obviously.
I'm trying to ask you in a way that you can.
Yeah, I know. I understand the question. What I'm just trying to tell you is for us, we had opportunities even before the IPO to do something closer to this.
Okay.
We decided that we don't want to stop writing our story. There has to be another chapter for Anghami, and we really aren't ready to stop writing it, right? And this is a very good thing that we're doing right now. And I think in 2017, 19, the SPAC concept, was available but was not used. And Karim and Souk, if they knew about the SPAC, most likely they would have tried actually to avoid an acquisition at that time. Maybe later on they would have done it. So for now, for us, we really want to grow further, but I don't discount anything. Yes, I mean that might happen in the future, but we want Anghami to grow significantly more before that.
Okay. A couple of good questions here from our chat. I want to give our chat some time here. Here's a good one from Sue. What are your top 5 countries just with respect to subscriptions?
I mean, clearly, Saudi and Egypt are now on the top list of our countries. US is a close, one. I mean, US, right? So that tells you how the diaspora is very important. I mean, we definitely, think that there's a lot of opportunity in the diaspora that we will be exploring.
Okay. And a couple people have asked about deals with specific artists and or record labels. Are there any that you want to name right now? Like, who are the biggest people that you've partnered with as far as artists or labels that consumers would know?
Yeah, I mean, we clearly work with everybody. I mean, the consumer would know we do. We had a shout out, let's say, from Coldplay this week, a few days ago. So we clearly work with everybody. I mean, Coldplay is quite big on that, and we've done, something with big. We're trying to bridge. Our aim is to bridge Western and Arabic music. We think, the next Despacito can come from the Arab world, and we really want to contribute to it. Unlike other streaming services, we contribute to music. We believe we want to create music, and that's not something that is part of what others are doing. But Anghami has created music. We've created around 100 tracks so far, and I believe post-IPO we will be creating way more music. And we really want to bridge Western and Arabic music. We really want to have a big track that comes in from Anghami to the world. Besides, I mean, it will be on Anghami at the beginning because we want to window all our content at the beginning, but just eventually it's going to be everywhere, right? Because we want to grow Arabic music and contribute to more of it being done.
Got it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to do it from our questions here, Elie. We were able to get to some from the chat as well. So very excited, to hear about your company, and again, hear from a company, from the Middle East, one of those emerging market areas. So again, guys, joining us on the show, Elie Habib. He's the co-founder and chief technology officer of Anghami. The company is going public via SPAC merger, ticker VMAC. Thank you, Elie, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on SPACs Attack today.
Thanks a lot, Elie.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. That's I feel like we've been pretty active in the emerging markets lately, Chris. We've been hitting some companies up, and I like it. I like it. There's way more to life than just the U.S.
Exactly.
There's a whole other world out there.
There's huge population growth, and I mean, one of the key takeaways for me, Spencer, talking about Iraq, right, where we don't hear that name a lot in the news as a positive. We've heard it for years as a war area, but talking about how they have 3G now. I mean, so many of these countries over there are just now getting some of this, smartphone technology, which adds to growth potential for, a music streaming provider. So a big picture idea to think about, as far as a company like Anghami. And, obviously I love the questions, from you about, the competition, and, they label themselves the Spotify of the Middle East, but also Spotify is a competitor there. So, how can they differentiate themselves and grow?
So yeah, it was interesting that he said, I asked the question about, like, is there specific challenges in your market that would prevent a Spotify or an Amazon Music or an Apple Music, whatever. And he said, no, not really. But he did say that they've gone out of their way, and he would, because he's the CTO, that they've gone out of their way to build their own technology and not rely on third parties like Twilio, for example, or other payments platforms, which was interesting. The reason I asked the question about the M&A at the end there is because it did seem to me that they were trying to draw that parallel in the presentation, like, hey, this is not out of the question. Amazon bought Souk, Uber bought Kareem. These are both very large companies in the Middle East, so it's possible. Obviously, he's not going to say that, but that was like the implication that I picked up on in their presentation. So there's about to be this big liquidity event for them. They're going public. But that doesn't have to be the end of the road. Though he's not going to say that.
It was interesting, Spencer, that he said that they had some opportunities before the SPAC merger, along with the M&A talk. So, my question there is, maybe they don't want to eventually be bought out, and they do want to do this on their own, or maybe the valuation just wasn't there. So they want to go public, they want to show, their growth, and then, potentially be bought out. But I think this is similar to a Jumia, right? Where they lay the infrastructure down, they have the customers, and a company, rather than coming in, cold and starting from zero, they can buy a company like Anghami and get entry into that, like I said, that huge growth, right, of smartphones and, music streaming penetration over there. So,
and this actually gets to a broader theme that's not just Anghami, that we don't know is whether it's going to happen or not, but I wonder if in a year or two or three, whenever, we do start to see a wave of a lot of these former SPACs that are, let's say, trading at lower valuations and they went public at, start to get swallowed up by other companies, right? We haven't seen that happen. Obviously, we're less than a year into like the SPAC boom, maybe like 11 months. Nikola was in June of last year, right? So maybe down the road we do get that sort of that wave of M&A. We don't know. It's possible.
Yeah, we haven't seen that lately, Spencer. I know one example, I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was a company that went public with one of Betsy Cohen's SPACs, right? We had Betsy Cohen on not too long ago.
Right.
That company went public. It traded around, 10, 11, kind of flat for a while. And then it was bought out, I think, for $16 a share by First Data, which now is a private company as well. So, I think we do see that down the road, right? Where some of these companies, they trade at 10 or they trade below. And I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of due diligence out there now. For anyone looking to acquire one of these companies, you've got an investor presentation, you've got all the financials right there. So, instead of having to sign a non-disclosure, start talking with the company, you can start your homework, now that they're a publicly traded company. So Great point there, Spencer. And I think that's something to definitely watch in the space.
All right, 15 minutes left. As I mentioned at the top of the show, although I don't know if it's still the case because I've been on with you, we had a lot of green on the screen today, Chris, in SPAC land. Whether you want to talk IPOE, which we did yesterday, whether you want to talk, who else is up today? Because it seems they're all up.
Yeah, so we have QS up big, QuantumScape up 10%, $26. I'm not seeing any new news out there. It looks like there was an article out on one of the finance sites talking about their relationship with Volkswagen, but also could be a potential short squeeze. Remember QuantumScape, they don't have a product out. They're a couple years away. They reiterated that in their last quarterly financial report that wasn't too long ago. So this thing's seeing some strong volume, though, if you look at that chart there and, trading higher. So remember, this was one that was over, like $100 last year and has come down. So one to keep an eye on. Other big movers, Spencer, we have Hyliion, HYLN, above the $10 level again. It's had some resistance. It's, had a hard time staying above the $10 recently. That one up about 7 or 8%. Tattooed Chef up 8%. That's one I heard you talk about this morning on pre-market prep. This one has been trading higher. The thing with Tattooed Chef, I'll tell you, Spencer, is that they are looking for brand ambassadors to grow their social media campaigns.
Oh, I do that.
They tweeted out. So, I mean, I'm not going to sign up, right, because I haven't had their products, but I think that's something to watch, right? Because one of the big stories with Tattooed Chef is that, people might not know their brand, right? They're in Target stores, they're in Costco, they're in, some of these other stores, but they started as a company making plant-based food for large grocery stores to sell as their own.
Yeah.
And now they're doing, their own brand of tattooed chefs. So interesting story to watch. I mean, what else is moving? We got Open Door, OPEN up 7%. That was one that Mitch actually talked about recently that he bought shares of. And then, I mean, Clover Health up 6%, Skills is up 6%. Just lots of movers out there, from SPACs and former SPACs. Also, Nikola up 4%. I mean, it wouldn't be a green day without Nikola, being up for no apparent reason. But that's why it's kind of interesting to me, Spencer, that CCIV isn't up more, right? CCIV has been one of the, most followed SPACs, most talked about SPACs. They have an event today. And when you got a lot of SPACs out there up 4 or 5%, it's just not seeing the volume or the movement today. So interesting, to note that. But yeah, lots of green out there. I mean, Virgin Galactic up another 5%, continuing its move this week. Ride is up 5%. Looks like it's getting close to maybe hitting $10 today. That's interesting, right? Because I kind of said that they had that sell-off after earnings, but they do have that event coming up in June. So, are people buying back in, catching the dip? Are they buying in ahead of that event, or, just what is going on with Ride?
Yeah, if I can go back to Tattooed Chef for a second, you noted that it's exclusively a grocery store product. And I think maybe the reason that everyone has heard of Impossible Meat and Beyond Meat, or Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat, is that they're on menus. They're on restaurant menus, and people see that. I don't know how many people see these things in the stores. I like you said, and I've said I've never had the product, so I can't speak to it at all. But maybe we should do a taste test here at Benzinga. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Spencer. I can say I've at least tried, and I think it was an Impossible Burger, right? Because they had it on the menu at one of the restaurants, and you can try it. I feel like there was a huge discount, or one of the fast food places was doing a free one, right, to try to get people to try it. Yep. So very interesting. But yeah, Tattooed Chef, really think, they're going to go hard on the brand awareness and stuff now. So I'm curious to see, do they end up with, just some people with large social media following, or do they try to tackle some, celebrities too, right? If they could get some celebrity endorsers, there's tons of celebrities out there, right, that have plant-based diets. If they could get one of them to be really the face of the brand, and also, like you said, if they could get their products into some of these restaurants, yep, that could be a game changer going forward. So,
here's Mudrick Capital Tops, also having a good day today. I should know that this isn't all happening in a vacuum. This isn't just SPAC related. It does seem like growth tech is back in favor, where you want to look at ARKK as a proxy, up 2%, ARKW up over 2%. So a lot of that growth stuff is back in play today. Workhorse, I'm seeing in chat, up almost 11% today. So a lot of beaten down stocks, because growth has been hammered, up big today. We've seen this happen a bunch of times in the last 3 months. Generally speaking, they've all been pops to sell, but you do get this rotation every so often, where you get like for today, we're just going to buy all the growth stocks that we loved last year and hate this year. We're going to buy them today and sell them tomorrow.
Spencer, what's interesting? Guess which SPAC is down today? IPOE down 3%.
Yeah. I had a feeling you were going to say that. It is down 2.9%. And the vote is tomorrow.
Vote is tomorrow, and I have an article out. They are planning on trading as the new ticker on June 1st. They're actually flipping exchanges as well. So they're going to move from the New York Stock Exchange to the NASDAQ and start trading ticker SOFI on June 1st. So,
for me, this is good for me. Because I don't want to see it go to 30.
You were talking 20, right? You wanted to see it.
Right. I wanted to see it hold 20, but I don't want to see it go to 30 because I don't own it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd rather see it stay. Well,
how do you think a holiday weekend? Do you think that plays into it at all? Because so we're closed on Monday, right? And then Tuesday. Do you think Tuesday ends up being a dull day? Does that take away some of their luster? I don't know if they're gonna ring the bell on Tuesday. Probably more like Wednesday or Thursday. And then maybe they get a CNBC appearance. But does the holiday weekend, do you think, affect any of that next week?
Maybe, but let's see how the market behaves into the weekend, because that's always an interesting phenomenon within itself, right? Is how the market behaves into a long weekend. Do you see a lot of selling pressure into the close? People don't want to go home with anything long. They want to go home flat for the weekend. Depending on what happens there. Then yeah, potentially there are some implications for SoFi or IPOE. For example, if the gains today, let's say they hold tomorrow, right? Do we see a big sell off on Friday, as nobody wants to hold these things into Tuesday? I don't know. A little early to tell, but I'll be watching the overall market for that more so than any individual stock, news or otherwise. It's 11:53. You want to do some ticker time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Was there anything else on the watch list schedule we didn't get to?
I think that's it. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, it's hard to name them all, but like I said, there's 20 or 25, SPACs or former SPACs on the watch list, all over 2% up right now. So just a nice day out there, as you said, rotation back into some of these growth names. But yeah, guys, drop your tickers in the chat. What do we want to talk about here?
What do I see? Luke says, check your text, Chris. No, don't do that while we're on stream. What thoughts on SPCX? Okay, this is not the one that I bought and sold. I bought one of the other ones, but SPCX is is that the actively managed ETF?
SPCX, I think, is the actively managed one.
That's the actively managed one.
SPCX is the one from Tuttle.
Right.
Yeah.
Tuttle's doing a second one, right?
Yeah, so Tuttle just put out a D-SPAC ETF, Spencer. I don't think we've had a chance to talk about that, me and you. Yeah. He actually put out two. There's the D-SPAC DSPC, and then there is the inverse SOGU, which is the short D-SPAC ETF. So you can actually bet against. So this is going to be 25 of the largest former SPACs over the last 12 months. So once those SPACs hit a 12-month from their de-SPACing, they're no longer available for the index. And again, they're going to pick 25 of the largest, not necessarily the largest, because it's all about having access to be able to short them. But, you got companies like Ride, Open Door and others in that SPAC. But getting back to SPCX, this one, I like it. This is the one that has heavy exposure to SPACs that have not announced deals.
Yep. I was going to actually share my screen for a second and show you the top holdings, and it's pretty much exclusively SPACs that are pre-deal. Right.
Yeah, because when I talked to Matthew Tuttle on the phone the other day, one of the things of a lot of these SPAC ETFs is they're kind of split between current SPACs and de-SPACed companies, and Tuttle's really gone after the pure play. So this one is companies that have not completed their SPAC merger, and then, as I said, he's launching the de-SPAC. So I think this is a good one to get exposure to companies pre-deal, which right now are beaten down. So we'll see how this performs.
All right. What else from chat? What about PaySafe? Two people asked about PaySafe.
Yeah, PaySafe, and I saw Carl mention that and talking about the Amazon MGM deal. I'm gonna have to dive into that more because maybe there's a connection there, but PaySafe is the company, that helps digital payments for companies like Roblox, Fortnite, some of the online sports betting companies. I like it. It's kind of like a thing behind the thing to help get payments to these companies. It started out hot, and then, right away from that merger vote, it has fallen, but it has started to trade up over the last couple weeks or days. So I'm a fan of this one long term.
Let me see. Going through the chat. BTAQ. That's pre-deal.
Yeah, so BTAQ, still no deal. I do own shares of this one. It's the former CEO of Hewlett Packard. The thing I like about them is they mentioned in their prospectus that they're targeting Israel. There are so many companies, emerging tech companies from that region that are, raising money. They're talking about IPOing or going public via SPAC. So I like their connections there. I still think they get a good deal, but time will tell. And this thing has traded, under 10 for quite a while now with the rest of these pre-deal SPACs.
There's a lot of good tech companies, tech and biotech to come out of Israel. The one thing you got to be mindful of, and this actually is not specific to Israel, really any emerging market, is the regulatory environment is a little bit looser. So I'm always mindful of that whenever I'm looking at companies outside the U.S. But there's been a lot of good companies to come out of companies in tech and healthcare specifically to come out of Israel. Teva comes to mind. Okay, it is 11:58. Chris, let me see.
Yeah, so Spencer, I saw one person mention Jam City in the chat, so that'll lead into some housekeeping here.
Yes.
We actually have an interview with a Jam City tomorrow on the show, ticker XPOA. So Cole in the chat. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. And then also on Friday, Spencer, we have the founder of Beachbody, right? The fitness company, which is going public, ticker FRX. So 2 interviews over the next 2 days. And then Spencer, you want to tell people, I know we've got a cannabis conference coming up next week. So we will not have SPACs Attack on Thursday and Friday, but you're not going to want to miss this. Some great cannabis companies presenting. And also I was told that Glass House, ticker GLHA, which is a cannabis SPAC, will be presenting. And then Clever Leaves, CLVR, which went public via SPAC, they will also be presenting. So you can get some more information about cannabis companies and some cannabis SPACs out there.
Whenever I think of Beachbody, I think of I had a roommate in college that did Beachbody for a semester. Or no, it was over the summer. That's what it was. And every day he would post Beachbody Insanity, day 10, complete. Beachbody Insanity.
It doesn't count if you don't post it, right? Isn't that how that works?
Day 11, complete. It's just all summer with this guy. And by the time I saw him again in the fall, I was like, how's that Beachbody going, man? You post about all the damn time. Anyway, all right. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up. That's going to be a wrap for SPACs Attack today. Everyone, please drop us a like on YouTube. Don't forget to enter our contest to win a free share of Tesla. Click on the link in the description of this video to learn more. Chris, fantastic job today, as always. Thanks to all of you in our chat for participating. We appreciate you. Power Hour coming up next. This video will redirect straight to that, so you don't got to do anything. And we're going to hop. So, Chris, I will talk to you later, man.
Thank you, Spencer. Thanks, everyone. Power Hour coming up next. Genius Brands, GNUS. Stay tuned.
That too.